and welcome to Different Leaf, a show for new and experienced cannabis consumers. I'm Brit Smith. In New England, where we are, fall is like a whole affair. The leaves spark into these flaming colors, the air cools off, and for hundreds of years now, one of the staple autumn activities of the Northeast has been to head to your local apple orchard to pick your own apples and enjoy some cider on the farm. Since cannabis has started to become more popular in drinks of all kinds, one of the Northeast's biggest apple cider makers is shifting to incorporate hemp and cannabis into its drink lines. That means not only can we now go to an orchard to enjoy pie and cider and apple picking, but now instead of alcohol, that cider can be dosed with THC or CBD for a different kind of experience. And that's exactly what the folks at Beak and Skiff orchards are doing. Beak and Skiff is a famed century-old apple orchard in upstate New York near Rochester, where folks have been going for fall pilgrimages for decades. Families and college students from all around the Northeast will head to Beak and Skiff orchards to enjoy picking apples, seeing the views, and hearing live music, all while sipping on a can of 1911, one of the region's most popular ciders. The Beak and Skiff families have been creating fresh cider since the early 1900s, when alcohol prohibition was still a thing. After prohibition ended, they started to include hard ciders, spirits, and wines, which came from tree to can. Generations of the families have continued to innovate the Beak and Skiff brand by offering a tasting room, introducing canned coffee brews, holding tours of the farms and distilleries, and hosting massive live music and family-friendly festivals with the orchards as the backdrop. But just in the last few years, Beak and Skiff has been working to introduce a new crop to their farm, cannabis and hemp. If you have your full issue of Different Leaf the magazine handy, flip to page 66, and you can read about how Beak and Skiff Cider Farms has come to introduce their guests to cannabis-infused drinks. If you don't have your issue yet, head on over to differentleaf.com, where you can either order one to be mailed to you, or you can find your local in-person retailer. That's differentleaf.com. So, the Beak and Skiff beverage line now includes a highly popular CBD, CBG, and THC-infused cider and seltzer. And they're even making their extracts into oil for vape pens as well. This episode, we're going to talk to Eddie Brennan, president of Beak and Skiff Apple Orchards and CEO of the new family cannabis company, Ayrloom. We're going to talk about the history of their family fruit farm, what got him interested in adding cannabis extracts to the brand's beverages, and how CBD and THC-infused cider is changing the experience of spending time at one of the most popular orchards/outdoor music venues in upstate New York, the Beak and Skiff Orchards. We'll be right back to chat about cider and CBD with Eddie Brennan.
So my name is Eddie Brennan, president of Beak and Skiff, and then I'm the CEO of Ayrloom. Ayrloom's the actual brand. Gen 5 is the new cannabis company that we formed. So yeah, it's a part of our really 5-generation family business here in Lafayette, New York.
Wow, 5 generations have been working together at these farms. Tell me a bit about how Beak and Skiff started.
Yeah, so we've started in 1911. So we've been going for over 112 years now as a family business and gone through so many iterations and changes as we've diversified along our path to get to the point we're at. But originally founded in 1911 in the Lafayette Valley as really an apple orchard. So my great-great-grandfather and his friends started the company really just to be an apple farm. And even today, we still are surrounded by 1,000 acres of apple trees. We're still a fully functioning apple farm. But that was really the roots and the DNA of the company, to be a farm really focused on fresh fruit to sell to farmers markets and grocery stores back then. And that is really where we evolved from as a jump off point. And while that's still a key part of our business, we've changed so much over the years. Each generation has really brought innovation and new products to the forefront. Our generation really being cannabis, but really we were a fresh fruit company up until the 70s, where we started to try to find homes for the other 50% of an apple tree. So if you think about an apple tree, 50% can go to fresh fruit that you could buy in a grocery store, and the other 50% up until the 70s had no real home.
Hmm.
which is how we started to get into the fresh cider business. We actually partnered with Cornell University and were one of the pioneers. We started flash pasteurization, which for us was one of the biggest technological changes in our business because it allowed us to press fresh cider. And in the past, it would only be shelf stable for about 4 days. And once we pasteurize it, it could be shelf stable for 90 days, which was a huge change for our business. If you think about 4 days of shelf life versus 90 days, it allowed us to expand our business so much into
Wow.
new grocery stores. And not only grocery stores, but it allowed us to give life to that other 50% of our farm, which was a huge deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
This thing's really grown. I mean, like, it sounds like every generation has, like you said, changed something in the way that Beak and Skiff are doing things. Are you from the Beak side or from the Skiff side?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm actually from the Skiff side, and my grandfather had 5 daughters. We always joke he kept trying to have a son to pass the business on to. But actually, yeah, so I'm on the Skiff side, but the Skiff name, unfortunately, won't be passed on in my family. I have, 2 daughters, and that's just how it worked out. But there are still Beaks and Skiffs operating in our company, and we always joke that the fifth generation gets along better than any of our other generations. We all work together, but the foundation of our company is really built on innovation and then really vertical integration. So outside of the cannabis business, we're really vertically integrated all the way from our fresh cider operation all the way up until, hard cider and spirits that we make from the apples that we grow here. So we really use all parts of the tree and have tried to get away from some of the commodity businesses that we've been in and get into some of these businesses where brand really matters. And that was really the genesis of 1911. We wanted to create a brand in the hard cider industry that meant something. And we had such a great family history that we felt like we had a great story to tell.
So 1911, I have heard of many, many times. Up here in the Northeast, it's well known. My production manager, Jen, will be really upset if I don't mention that it is her absolute favorite cider. And she was
Oh, thank you.
very, very excited to hear that Beak and Skiff was getting into the cannabis world as well, because she was like, if it's that level like the cider is, it's going to be an incredible drink, and really looking forward to it. Yeah, so your cider's well known, and it's won awards as well. It's an award-winning cider. Like you mentioned, you've also got other products, though. It's not just the cider. Like, you've got the canned cocktails, there's wines, and there's liquors, there's spirits,
Right.
which I did not know you could make all of that from apples. Is that all just apples?
Yeah, apples are pretty versatile. Actually, during Prohibition, it was a really devastating time in our family business. We weren't in the alcohol industry, but they actually came through and they cut down a lot of our apple trees because one of the easiest ways to make alcohol is from apples, from fresh pressed cider. So that was a big challenge back in the 20s. But we like to say that 1911 and our hard cider and spirits saved the family farm, because farming is such a challenging business, especially with all the changes in the climate in the Northeast. It's really just become a challenging business. And we've seen so many family farms go out of business over the years, just as climate changes happen or just losing crops from a frost. For us, 1911, if we have a bad year where we have a lot of hail, we can move a lot of our crop into our hard cider business, just trying to create that supply chain to be able to use the apple tree no matter what. But as I look around us today, we're in the middle of harvest. It's a really exciting time here on our farm because we have 50 men out there bringing all of our apples in and bringing the harvest in. And all of those apples will go, half of that will go to make hard cider and the other half will end up in grocery chains on the East Coast. So,
Wow.
we're still very, very proud of that.
That's awesome. So this apple orchard is still rolling. How many acres did you say that you guys have?
Yeah, so it's about 1,000 acres. And the
Whoa.
challenging thing is, mechanization's become so important in the agricultural industry, but in the apple business, every apple still has to be picked by hand. There's
Wow.
no machine that goes through and can pick your apples. So we literally pick all of the apples. We have about 500,000 trees across our farm, and every tree has, 200 to 300 apples. So they're all picked by hand. So if you think about just the time it takes to go through, and you can't just pick apples and throw them in a bin. They have to be picked gently and
Hmm.
placed in a bin so they're not bruised. But it'd be easier to make hard cider from concentrate or just buy it from someone else. But we really feel like that authentic story where people can taste the cider and know that it comes from a trusted source, a family farm. That is such a important story to tell our customers. And I think they've come to appreciate the quality.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's an amazing point that you made earlier, that essentially Beak and Skiff has gone through two prohibitions and each time latched on to either the alcohol or the cannabis industry, because as farmers you can see an opportunity really in changing that crop or using that crop differently. So let's talk about how hemp and cannabis has started to come into this business, which has already been around for more than a century. Did you face any stigma or pushback when you first came up with the idea of adding hemp or cannabis drinks?
Yes, absolutely. I think actually on a daily basis, I get little love notes from our customers who like to let us know, how could you do this, or drug crisis, or
Love notes. That's nice.
there's people, and a lot of that just comes from maybe not being educated, or thinking that cannabis is a gateway drug. So it took a lot of conviction to really believe that this was the right direction for our family business. And for us, I've seen the benefits in my own personal life, but just understanding, when we sell alcohol, we have fun with it, and we create some amazing products. We just released a candy corn hard cider, which is fun, but
Hmm.
we never get notes from our customers saying, this hard cider changed my life, or I've had so many benefits in my life. They appreciate it for what it is, but we get notes from customers, talking about how we help them with their mental health, or they're sleeping better, or performing better, in running, or whatever those are. But yes, we do face the stigma of people just really not understanding how cannabis can integrate into a daily life. And we really see cannabis as a real threat to the alcohol industry, because especially with cannabis beverages, you're not waking up with that hangover, feeling better the next day. And I've seen a lot of people really transition, slow their drinking down, and move into cannabis, just seeing those benefits. But yeah, it's always those daily motivational love notes we get from our customers. They're always pretty funny.
That's funny. So who pitched the idea of integrating hemp and cannabis, and why? What was their connection to it?
Yeah, so it was my idea, along with Matt Kubert, who's a partner and the president of Gen 5 Labs. And we really saw it as a way to, vertically integrate another part of our business. We really love the vertical integration, where we can control the crop from the beginning all the way to a final product. It's something we do really well. We feel like it's important that we control all aspects from harvest all the way to the canning of the product. And it's what we've done with the Apple business. It's just a different product that we're working now. And we really felt like we needed to continue to diversify our business. We put a lot of, pun intended, apples in the hard cider business. And we felt like, it was time to continue to diversify. And it was just the opportune time. We got lucky in the sense that New York State had rolled out the hemp program, and we got into that and grew several acres of hemp, and we're focused on making CBD beverages. And then they changed, when the recreational program rolled out, they prioritized hemp farmers. So we were able to get to the front of the line. And the brand we created was Ayrloom, and the name is important to us. It harkens back to heirloom apple trees, and those trees are always important on a farm. We don't have a lot of them, but they always make the best hard cider. They're passed down from generation to generation. But they're horrible. They're really hard to grow, and they can be very tricky. Some years they make a bumper crop, another year you don't have any crop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very fitting for cannabis as we navigate the choppy waters that is New York's cannabis industry. The name Ayrloom is very fitting.
Yeah, for sure. You said that it was partially your idea. What's your connection to cannabis? Did it change your life in some way?
Yeah, so I've actually don't really drink alcohol anymore. I find cannabis to be much more fitting for my life, but I found cannabis a little bit later in my life, in my 30s. I'm 41 now. Just love the way it made me feel. I could use it socially, made me feel a bit more social, less anxiety, but also just not having that hungover and cloudy feeling the next day. I always loved that part of it. And I really saw how it could help so many people.
Yeah.
And as I look at cannabis beverages, we really felt like that was the niche. We've really evolved into a beverage company over the last 10 years. And a lot of the technology we use in the hard cider space, whether it's flavor development or pasteurization, or a lot of the canning equipment we use, it all translates into cannabis. So we really felt like cannabis beverages were the vehicle to help break the stigma and introduce it to more people. So, we're not necessarily targeting the legacy user with a 5 milligram THC beverage. You're going after somebody new to the category, or dipping their toe in, or looking to try something different.
And what a great place to normalize it. It's already a cider brand that a farm that you might love to go and visit and stay at and tour around.
Right.
And you get to see really up close that the myth of cannabis being this terrifying plant is a lie. And when you get up close to it, it is just another crop. Just
Right.
like apples or grapes that when you process them can create euphoria, they can relax you. I think that is a really powerful way to integrate cannabis. And on top of it, it has health benefits to it.